The Bible was edited, and what they removed had horns. Before theology was polished, before the scriptures were canonized, there were other names, darker names, entities born from ancient fears, whispered by prophets, feared by kings, and later erased. These were not metaphors. They were warnings. But someone made sure you'd never read them. Today, we expose the biblical demons that were buried, not in hell, but beneath layers of fear and fire. If you believe the truth shouldn't be filtered, subscribe now and descend into what was never meant to be seen. Azazel, a name that resonates in the book of Leviticus, but whose origin and meaning escape most modern readers. In ancient rituals, the Hebrew high priest would place his hands on the head of the goat, symbolically transferring the sins of the people to the animal. This goat was then sent alive into the desert, to Azazel. But who or what was Azazel? In apocryphal texts, such as the Book of Enoch, Azazel is not just a place. He is a being, one of the leaders of the fallen angels, the one who taught men the art of war, seduction, and vanity. He was blamed for corrupting humanity before the flood. The scapegoat ritual, then, was not just a symbolic gesture, but a literal sending of sins to a demonic entity active in the world. Over the centuries, modern translations have preferred to soften the name. They have transformed Azazel into an abstract place or omitted his personification altogether. But the oldest scriptures leave little doubt. Azazel was real and was deliberately forgotten. Today, many still repeat the term scapegoat without knowing that, in the beginning, they were offering their sins to a demon. Before Eve, there was Lilith. At least that is what ancient Jewish traditions, such as the alphabet of Ben Sira, say. Created from the same clay as Adam, she refused to submit to him. Instead of obeying, she ran away. And for this, she was demonized. Lilith disappeared from the canonical Genesis, but she reappears in the margins of the text. In Isaiah 34, verse 14, a creature called Lilith is mentioned among nocturnal beasts, translated in some Bibles as owl or creature of the night, a clear attempt to hide her identity. In Kabbalistic traditions, Lilith becomes a nocturnal demon, an entity that devours children, seduces men, and that, for centuries, was feared and fought with amulets and oracles. Her exclusion from official text seems to have been less a theological issue and more an ideological decision. To erase the figure of a woman who refused to submit, Lilith became a symbol of insubordination, and as such, she had to be hidden. But even banished, she survived in whispers, in myths, in fears passed down from generation to generation. Lilith, the forgotten one, the erased one, but never completely silenced. Asmodeus appears in the Book of Tobit, a text considered canonical by some traditions and rejected by others. He is described as a demon who kills all of Sarah's husbands before they consummate their marriage, a jealous spirit linked to lust and possession. In rabbinical writings and later traditions, Asmodeus becomes one of the kings of hell, associated with carnal pleasure, the corruption of the flesh, and dark pacts. The Book of Tobit, where he is most clearly mentioned, was excluded from Protestant translations of the Bible, reducing his exposure and erasing his relevance. His figure spans the centuries as an archetype of irresistible temptation, of uncontrollable desire that leads to destruction. Like others, Asmodeus was not forgotten because he was insignificant. He was hidden because he revealed a dark aspect of human spirituality that many preferred to ignore. But in symbols, medieval engravings, and oral legends, he never ceased to exist. In ancient Hebrew, Belial meant worthless, useless. But over the centuries, this name ceased to be an adjective and became an entity. In Deuteronomy and other Old Testament books, the sons of Belial were those given over to corruption and rebellion. But in the Dead Sea Scrolls, Belial appears as a being, an archenemy, the prince of darkness at war with the sons of light, a figure who commands legions, seduces in the darkness, and disputes the fate of humanity. The transition from a pejorative term to a personification of evil reveals something disturbing. At some point, this figure became real enough to be feared. Modern translations almost always avoid the name. They replace it with generic terms. But the name Belial continues to haunt mystical texts, grimoires, and occult traditions to this day. a shadow that has survived oblivion. The Shedim are mentioned discreetly in the Old Testament, as in Deuteronomy 32, verse 17. They sacrifice the demon Shedim, who are not God. But the term is often softened or translated ambiguously. In Jewish tradition, the Shedim are ambiguous beings, creatures with bodies but no souls. They are born among humans, but are not human. They live among us, but in another layer of existence. They are described as intelligent, organized, and in some accounts, capable of influencing human behavior. They are the link between the fallen angels and corrupted men. Some texts claim that God interrupted their creation on the sixth day, leaving them incomplete. Others say that they arose from the lust of the watchers and the daughters of men. Because they are difficult to categorize, they have been forgotten. But their spectral nature continues to haunt the edges of theology and folklore. The Shedim are not remembered by chance. They never stop being around. The story of biblical demons is not just about names that were present, but about those that were erased. The Apocrypha, the Qumran manuscripts, rabbinical treatises, and oral traditions are full of entities that have disappeared from modern scripture. Some names have been erased. Others have been rewritten. Many have been absorbed into generic archetypes like Satan or the Evil One. But each had a form, an intention, and a history. This deliberate editing reveals not only a theological cleansing, but a deep fear that evil was more organized, older, and closer than anyone would like to admit. But the names persist in rituals, in hidden writings, in symbols engraved in stone. They have been erased from the Bible, but not from memory, because what man tries to forget, time insists on revealing.